Yes, and here we are, another Saturday, and that means another edition of the Reggae PodClash, episode 4 tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, episode 4 of the Reggae PodClash is tonight, and how you doing, Roger?
I'm doing good, Devin. I'm really stoked. 4, I think, is a big deal. You know,
I do too. I feel 4 is somehow significant.
people celebrate the 50 and the 100 and all that, but I think 4, that's,
Yeah.
that's a big one. I should have a cake or something for us today, and I don't have it.
Well,
I'll be back, dude. No, I'm joking.
I would want a cake, definitely. Well, everybody tuning in, welcome to the Reggae PodClash, where Roger Rivas and myself, Devin Morrison, talk all things reggae. We listen to music, we have guests on, and we try to bridge the gap between the old school Jamaican music audience and the people who really dig the current American reggae scene. And I feel like people in one scene might not know a lot about the music that's happening in the other scene. And because Roger and I have been fortunate enough to really have our feet firmly planted in both scenes for many years, we've decided to do this show to try to bring those audiences together and share what we've learned and learn more along the way. And it's been great so far.
So far, it's been awesome. I mean, I think the show offers something to everyone. Like Devin said, whether you're into the old stuff, into the new stuff, or maybe you don't know about certain artists. I mean, we're constantly bringing new artists in front of you, and I guarantee you there's going to be something that you can benefit from watching this. And we'll try to keep it fun. And I mean, in the segment where we show new music, or old music rather, but these 245s that we choose every week, you can go online, our website, thereggaepodclash.com, and you can check out the tune and listen to it the whole week leading up to when we actually discuss the song. So that's really cool, and we're really stoked on that alone, because we like talking about reggae.
Exactly. I think that as much as I've enjoyed the guests we've had on and the great conversations we've had so far, I've also just really been into the idea of sharing music that we've learned about over the years with people, because when you and I were getting into reggae music, it wasn't as easily accessible online as it is now. And so it is true that anybody can go and go on YouTube and find these tunes that we're showing you, but you might not find them because they're just buried in the
right.
deep treasure chest of YouTube, and especially reggae music. So it's been really cool to go through some of my YouTube playlists that I've already made and select tunes each week, and then go through my 45 boxes and pick the tune of the week. That's been one of my favorite parts of this whole thing.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, when we were younger, I think I touched on this in another show. Like, you'd go to some of these music shops, like Warehouse Music Plus, if anybody knows what those are in LA, but old places. But you'd be super stoked to find anything old school because it wasn't accessible on YouTube or the internet. But I think the same kind of thing applies, because I'll be on YouTube, and that's the same kind of forum where I'll find a clip. I know you will too, and it's like, dude, this is awesome. It's like the YouTube bin in a way. So, and it's free. So,
Hey, yeah. the YouTube bin is like a real thing for sure. Tonight we are super stoked because we have the front man of Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad, James Searl, who's joining us. I've known James for maybe about 6 years now. We did a tour. Expanders did a tour with Giant Panda and Simkin Project in 2014. Which was one of the, Expanders were just first starting to tour, and it was one of those tours where just every single night every band is killing it,
Yeah.
There's
totally.
there's no lull. There's no okay, I'll just go chill while this band plays. It's like, damn, I can't even go warm up backstage because this band's so dope. I got to watch them. So I'm stoked to get James back on here. Well, to talk to James again, and he was on our list for when we made our list of guests we wanted to bring on. He was high on the list, and I'm stoked that we were able to get him tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited as well, man. I've known James for over 30 years, and I met him in swimming class when we were younger. So I mean, it's a pleasure for it to full circle 30 years ago to where we're at now, and yeah, we're gonna have some fun.
Should we get into the music?
Yeah, man, let's do it. I'm super excited.
So this week for my tune of the week, I went 80s. So far, we've kept everything pretty early 70s and even 60s, right? Because you've been playing some ska. I went early 80s with this one. So let's just, right off the bat, let's do it. This is the Uplifters with Gallas Trap, which means gallows trap.
drop. Blindfolded, leading out to the Gallas trap. Never know when, no, no, brutality will ever stop. Some do wicked things and racing for the top, and I know them how we get a drop. Some are climbing up a simple wall, and I know them how to get a fall. Majority is down and they fear no fall. Majority is down and I hope they listen to the call. Blindfolded, leading out to the Gallas.
Yes. All right. So, man, that tune is like, first of all, you know, I feel like all my picks so far, maybe except for the Ethiopians tune, have been like this, but it's like, who are the Uplifters? That's a one-off.
All your picks
you know?
have been like this, yeah.
That's because that's the one of my favorite things about Jamaican music. It's just like, it blows my mind. It's like this group will come in and not just like, oh, there's this one-off group that had a tune. It's like they had a crazy tune. Like, and it took me a while, and I feel like a lot of people who maybe were, you know, into American music first before they got into reggae music, I think maybe they had the same experience where like it took me a while to get used to that, right? I would hear a song back in the day like by the Uplifters, and I'm like, oh my god, the Uplifters are so good. I gotta go find like all their albums and blah blah blah.
Right.
And then you realize like, no, there's no albums. There's
No,
like
guys.
no even other songs. That's it. That's the only one. It's crazy. So that's one of those just heavy tunes. It's a Channel 1 recording from the early 80s, and it was originally released only on a 12-inch pressing that came out in Brooklyn, I guess. I guess it wasn't even released in Jamaica.
Crazy.
And there's this company called DigiKiller. I'm pretty sure they're New York based, and they've been reissuing a lot of like 80s tunes. Some killer early 80s. I think they have a partnership with Channel 1.
Okay,
And
cool.
they've been re-releasing Channel 1 stuff, but like obscure things that you've never heard, but whoever that, you know, that were released like once, maybe just in Brooklyn. I don't know the whole story behind DigiKiller, but they're releasing, you know, as the name implies, they're releasing a bunch of digital stuff, but then also some early 80s stuff like that. That sounds like 82, 83 to me. And you know, whoever is in charge of just picking the music, like the tastemaker at DigiKiller, is killing it. Because, like, you know, there's the term rare for a reason, right? It's like some things are okay, like that's rare because it wasn't that good. Everything they're releasing is just high quality. I'm always stoked on the DigiKiller stuff. And what one of the things I love most about that tune is the lyrics. So they say blindfolded, leading out through the gallows trap, you know, and of course they spelled it Gallas trap, right? But it's like, what are they talking about? I don't know, like, because that's like it's a spooky minor chord rhythm, and like, you know, they're saying blindfolded, leading out through the gallows trap, never know the minute or the hour the last drip of blood will drop. It's like those are heavy lyrics and like spooky, but I don't know like what they're I mean, they don't really go into much. The verses don't give you much insight into like what they're talking about. So I mean,
not only it's a mystery name of the group, but it's mystery lyrics as well. That's great.
they're
I love
just
it.
a mystery.
It's
So it's
true
heavy.
poetry.
And like I bring that, I guess I'm not like Boss Harmony, the great reggae DJ here in LA, would probably like know exactly when to play that live. I always bring that in my box, and I don't think I've ever played it because I just can never find the right space because it's like it's not quite fast enough.
When doors
but
open.
see, but I don't because I'm like it's
I
so
know
heavy.
what
Like I
you're
want
saying.
someone
I know
to
what
hear
you're
it. You know,
Right.
that's
right.
where my DJ skills need improvement. I don't know how to sneak in these tunes like at the right time.
If anybody could sneak it in the set, yeah, Bossy would do that for sure, man.
Yeah.
I think he could do it.
I've been watching their dub club every Wednesday night. They do they go live. You know the
Right.
dub club crew. Tom Chastain for an hour, and then Boss Harmony for an hour, and then back to Tom Chastain for an hour, and like, I mean, of course, I really miss dub club, and like it's not the same, but there's something so cool about it because they can just play whatever they want.
Right.
You know, and man, some of the music they've been playing is amazing.
It is different, right? Because they're not so much reading the crowd. They're just having fun amongst themselves.
I mean, and they are, and they're looking at the feed and stuff. But then like
Right.
people in the feed start saying little things, and it's been really cool. I encourage everyone to go follow Dub Club LA. I think on Instagram, but just find the Dub Club from Instagram. They're from LA, and on Instagram every Wednesday night they go live, and it's been amazing. It's
Right.
been so dope.
Yeah, I bet you. I was thinking about it. I bet you one of the cats from Uplifters is like, because it's a case like this sometimes. One of the guys that's in that band is like an artist that we know that has a bigger name outside of that. You know
For
what I mean?
sure.
So I always trip out on that. You know, I mean, a good example is like Leo Graham when I first heard the Bleachers, right? I was like, man, this is dope. He's got a dope voice. I mean, everything the Bleachers put out is just 10. It really is. And some labels are like that too, like Blue Cat's. Like everything Blue Cat puts out is like 10, you know. But then you and me are big fans of Leo Graham, so we come to find, he's got his solo thing going on, you know. So I didn't know until I knew. So it's one of those things where I'm sure like
there's
whatever.
somebody
In that band is like made a name for himself as a solo name or something. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I couldn't find. I was looking for info, and all the info I found is what we see at the bottom of the screen here.
Right.
I couldn't really find anything else out about them.
Mm-hmm.
I could have maybe I'll email someone at DigiKiller one of these days and get some.
Oh yeah.
Get some further info. But shall we listen to your tune?
Let's do it.
I heard
Let's
you
listen
picked a
to this
banger.
one.
All right, Roger's tune of the week. Yes.
Dang. How about that one, huh?
That was heavy.
I don't think, man, in the world of ska music, jeez. So when I first heard this, it was on a compilation. One of the first OG ska compilations I got is called Ska Bonanza.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people kind of have that by
Yep.
default because it was like, I think Heartbeat put it out back in the day. Double disc kind of thing. And whoa,
Yeah.
this was like one of those songs that is, because at that time, you know, I'm still coming off the whole, you know, my palette is like, oh yeah, Ska-Lights, fast ska, like Rude Boy ska, all that stuff. So this was definitely up there. And I think what makes it so dope is the energy. Like, I want to say, you know, they're like the Ska-Lights are just at that right age where, I mean, you could hear it in Nibsy's playing on the drums, the brewer beat. It's just freaking, I don't know, full potential. Like, I don't even know.
Describe the burrow beat for people who don't know.
I mean, I think, you know, I'm not a super expert on it, but I know a little bit to where it derived from the marching kind of aspect, you know. So you had like the Alpha Boy School out of Jamaica, right? You have this institution that's a school and they have the band and I mean, they would probably be going over like old school marching rhythms and just anything like maybe a high school band would go over, a junior high school band. And so I think as the ska music started to have its own identity, you know, with Jamaica, those kind of aspects were included, you know, it was a definite influence. And it's like, dude, talk about craziness, right? Because, I mean, some songs you hear, they'll go into the brewer beat for like 8 bars or whatever. But this is the whole song, you know, just chugging through. And I think everyone else, all the other musicians are feeding off it because you hear, if you guys really want to, you know, hear the whole song, go on YouTube and check out the whole thing. But Don Drummond takes a solo, and that's huge. Roland Alphonso takes a solo, and that's huge. And it's just like 10 out of 10 for everyone's participation. Because some songs you'll get, and the song's really
A
good.
for effort.
A for effort. The song's really good, and then you're like, oh man, trumpet homie blew it right there. You kind of squawked a little bit. Yeah, exactly. And you're kind of like, oh, but you could tell they were thinking, nah, man, it's so heavy, just run with it. And then, you know, trumpet player has to live with that all of his
Do you know what
life.
year that one was?
Man, I don't know the exact year. I know that it's definitely Studio One. CNN Records is a sub of Studio One.
Where did that come? What? Do you know anything about CNN Records? Because Studio One had like so many subsidiaries.
Right.
It's interesting just to learn about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, my impression just by being familiar with seeing the label and collecting records on the label is definitely, it was like, whenever I see that label, it's like reflective of like the early stuff, you know, early stuff. Like, you know, I can find like Rocksteady on that label. It's like ska stuff, maybe some boogie woogie blue beat, you know, type ska stuff. But that's my impression of it. Whenever I see that label, my head just goes to like early Studio One kind of stuff. So,
and
yeah,
it's
man.
interesting. I see you put credited Roland Alphonso, but might as well be Scatolites.
mhm.
And I mean, that's something I've thought about too. It's like it's weird how that happens, right? Because you see, I've got like I think it's a Heartbeat compilation too. It's called Roland Alphonso Something Special.
Yeah.
And it's all the Scatolites. It's just tunes that are featuring Roland Alphonso. So I get it in retrospect if someone wants to like compile, you know, these are the Scatolites tunes that featured Roland Alphonso. But even back in the day, at that time, right, they would put out something by Roland Alphonso, which is interesting because it's like as you know, if like Giant Panda released something that just said James Searl, you know, or like the Agrolites released something that just was like Jesse Wagner, or, you know, Roger Rivas. It's weird, like that, how that you find that a lot, especially with the Scatolites.
You know, I like to have fun with it and think like, okay, think about the actual moment where they decided that. Was it Roland that
Right.
actually, you know, like maybe Roland wrote the line and he came to the studio that day saying, you know, let's do this. And he was kind of the overseer of the whole song. And then they're just like, you
But
know,
I can imagine that happening lots of times, but they still release it as Scatolites, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
why is that one Roland Alphonso?
maybe
you know?
Roland paid for lunch that day. Maybe Roland funded, I don't know, who
Yeah,
knows,
yeah.
right? Maybe Roland threw Cox and Dodd a couple bucks. I don't know. That's a good point though, and that's why I say it might as well be credited to the Scotlights because it is the Scotlights. You hear everyone in there. I looked up this song in particular, and somewhere I think on Discogs it said that Tommy McCook wasn't in the lineup for this. First of all, I
Oh.
sit back and go, "How the heck you figure that out?" But
Right.
you know, you got to take everyone's word for it. Some of the
Yeah, how do they figure that out? It's not like, you know, because I remember like my homie Ben, his dad used to have at his house like this book that George Martin, you know, released that was like the detailed notes from every Beatles song, like the whole sessions, you know, and they were taking notes at that time, and no one was doing that in Jamaica, which, you know, you wish they were.
No.
Like, how cool would that be? Is if
Right.
if that just suddenly appeared, like, oh no, someone did, and here it is, and we know like who played what on every song, and
That'd be insane.
you know what time they did what and all that stuff.
I mean, I think, well, not necessarily that in depth, but I think there's a lot of cool things out there that we haven't even uncovered yet. I really do feel that way. I think that is when you look at the generations as far as you know, the music of the 60s and 70s out of Jamaica, and you look at where we're at now, and you look at the ages, and you look at like what they might have had and kept, and how that stuff's going to get resurfaced. I was looking up King Tubby just to kind of see if there was any video footage, and there's like super duper small video footage. I think from like a Japanese documentary, and it's on YouTube, and it's not even of him talking. He's not even talking. He's just like, it's like he's got his like tank top on, and he's just kind of, he's actually looking at the camera kind of pissed. My point is though, is that I was reading in the comments, and someone said that his nephew or some relative lives in Florida, and seems to have a lot of footage of King Tubby, but that nephew or relative is protective of it and doesn't want it to be like, you know, used like for whatever, just, you know, to make money or whatever. So I mean, that leads me to believe that there's probably some cool things out there. Not so much a back catalog of who played on every session, but you know, there's probably some cool stuff. Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, that was our tunes of the week for the week. And right now, it's our great pleasure to bring on the man called James Searl from Giant Panda,
Yeah,
who I'm just so stoked we have him today.
house.
Yes.
y'all.
James.
What's up, James?
What's up? It's such an honor to be with you guys. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
likewise,
sure,
man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I just want to say that like this is like reggae history for me. I've been getting down seriously to reggae music. Like it's been a big force in my life for over 20 years. But I've been waiting to have this, like to be able to hear from guys like y'all, who I do think like are steeped in a knowledge that just most people don't have. It's really hard to get in touch with, and so I seeked out elders, you know, from the East Coast that were part of the reggae, you know, doing reggae and being interested in reggae before me, and still having something that's on YouTube, anybody can access it. It's just, thanks you guys so much.
Thanks for saying that, man. It's
I
like
really mean it.
sometimes, like when I was a kid, I used to do this thing like when I got my first like tape machine where you could like pop in a tape and hit record. I
Mhm.
used to do this like thing where I would, like my friends would come over and we would pretend to be like radio show hosts and like
Yeah.
so, and I feel like this sometimes when I'm doing this. It's just like
Hmm.
it's I get like it's I'm just happy anyone wants to listen to us talk about reggae because this is what we do all the time. So it's nice to be able to get on and
Yeah, man.
talk about it.
And it's a special time because we have this technology, like back in the day you didn't have this ability to share, and you guys talked about the YouTube rack or whatever.
Right.
Like I didn't go check out records when I was younger, but I've been living deep in the YouTube vault for definitely just the past 3 weeks. I've had reggae on all day. It's how my son sleeps, and we finally figured out, we can just play these YouTube playlists all day, and my life has been so much improved. It's just like kind of, I think about it every day. I'm like, wow, I'm living in a special time. I know other people are having a hard time in respect to that, but I'm in my house with my kids, like listening to the best reggae in the world that nobody has had a chance to listen to like this for most of the time reggae has been around,
Right,
So,
because it already gets filtered in a way if you think about it, right? You got some of these guys who have their accounts, and you just look at the stuff that they are uploading, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is gonna be 8, 9, or 10. Like they're not gonna upload crap, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
but
already
I wouldn't
filtered a
know,
couple
so
times.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, there's a man. I can't really think of any in particular. I think there's this user called it's man. I'm gonna get his name wrong. Alphonso out of Spain, maybe. But his username's like Ivy League or something like that. But
Uh-huh.
dude, everything
Sounds
this cat uploads is like just kick ass. 68,
Oh, right.
69, 70, like Rocksteady Skin reggae stuff. It's like whoa. He's like, so accounts like that, you're safe. Because you
Yeah.
can just let that play, and it's gonna be awesome.
And you gotta, it's nice to be able to find a curator that you can trust. That's like what people have wanted. That's what a selector is. Like that's what a sound system was. You were like going to the person that was going to show you the best music. So yeah, I am just like really especially Rootfire, that I know the people who started it and was around when it started, and I feel like this podcast is what Rootfire is supposed to be, like in essence. So it's just fills me with pride, and as a enthusiast, I'm so happy that it's here for me. Like I didn't know about the Buru beat, whatever.
Yeah, Buru beat, yeah.
I know about that, man. Like,
Yeah,
I live for that knowledge. Like I know that it's only possible to get from so many people.
I feel like the only reason we know about that is because growing up in LA, there was, just a really deep ska scene, and like, so people they put that microscope on ska, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that for a long time, but it's, when the drummer's playing that ska beat and then suddenly he switches to that thing where it's like heavy on the snare. But the rest of the band still, jink, 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 jink.
Yeah. Yes.
And like I had heard that happen a lot of times, but then like I didn't realize. It's funny. I didn't realize there was a name for it. Roger's band, the Agrolites, actually had a similar effect for me. Like the first time I saw the Agrolites was like in 2002 or 2003, at this weekly night in LA called the Blue Beat Lounge, and I had been listening to reggae for at that point maybe like 5-6 years, like deep, but I had never gotten deep enough to where I was like, it had never occurred to me that like there are different like there were different eras that had different names. I didn't think about it that way, and it was right before like the internet was so like widely available that you could just look all this stuff up. And so I thought I knew I knew so much more about reggae than like everyone in LA. And then I went and saw Roger's band, the Agrolites, and they were playing like this style of reggae, and they were calling it, they had a name for it. They were calling it skinhead reggae, and I was like, what the fuck is, like, what does that mean? Like, and then but the sound of it, I was like, oh, I know this sound, I know songs like this, but it never occurred to me that there's like a distinction here, And so then that caused me to go learn more about that. And there were so many bands in LA that were doing stuff like that, like with the Burrow beat, where you would see them and then be like, oh man, like the light bulb would go on, like, whoa, like, so that's the only reason I think that LA was fortunate enough to have that, really it was like a handful of people that just the knowledge just went like from these people,
That scene, like scenes like that in a community are so important, because like as evidence, like look at you, you're here spreading even more knowledge about the music and playing beautiful music as well. And I not saying it just to say it, just that is such an important thing to recognize, having a community or people that you can like learn from, that can pass it down. And I always think about the East Coast and the West Coast because for whatever reason, maybe it was just who I am or where we were, but we were pretty isolated from any connection to any of that. And again, I want to say it with like a preface of like maybe that was happening in Rochester on the other side of town. Like, you know, it's a super segregated city. Like there's been reggae everywhere for a long time, but as far as like on the east side of town, like hippie-ish people kind of moving more towards the reggae aesthetic and dipping their toe in enough to kind of influence people to then go seek, you know, the greater ocean that has all of these feels you're talking about. And how do you even know to ask the question that those things exist? You know, like Sirius XM has one reggae channel where they play all the reggae, and you guys might know the answer to this, but someone told me a long time ago, again, like skinhead reggae was just rumored. Like I didn't know what it sounded like. People talked about, oh, there's these skinheads, but they're not the racist skinheads, you know? And there was, sorry, I think I'm losing my train of thought. But anyways, happy to be talking to you guys. And
yeah, for sure. We're gonna have a whole edition on the skinhead reggae thing. You know? Like Devin said, I started in a band called Agrolites, and you wouldn't believe how many questions, you know, when the word skinhead comes up, everyone's just, and the whole story of it, and we'll go into detail on another show, but the whole story of it is just so unique because you have so many elements to the story that it seems unbelievable. It seems like someone's making up the story of the subculture of skinheads and how it relates to reggae music. And that style of music, the characteristics that go into that specific style that's labeled skinhead reggae is like a blip for me in the reggae timeline. You know, I mean, not a small blip, but it really is. It's like a
pretty small.
Years. It's pretty small. It could get overlooked and to the point where it's not even considered like we're gonna label this something different. You know, a lot of Jamaicans. Who was it? I did this one tour. Agrolites toured with this two-tone band called Madness, and we toured all over. And the DJ was Jerry Dahmers, the creator of Two Tone and the Specials, and he would announce us, and he always called us rocksteady music, always, every night. He never used the word reggae, never used the word skin. So that just goes to show you, certain people will hear something and go, oh yeah, they play really good rocksteady, and then you sit back and go, well, we don't even play a rocksteady song, but I mean, you know, it is what it is. It's all love. It's all love. It's Jamaican music, man.
It's special, you know.
Yeah. We're gonna do an episode, I think, about that. A couple of those topics we just touched on, but I know people are tuning in because they're fans of Giant Panda and really want to, you know, dig into some of this stuff. So, James, can you talk about the early years of Giant Panda, and when you realized that you guys were gaining followers and becoming a band that meant a lot to lots of people? Because I feel like, you know, every band that gets any kind of like measure of success, of course, means a lot to a lot of people. But there are certain bands that I know of where I'm like, no, these guys, their followers are like, this band means everything to them. And Giant Panda is always a band that I kind of put in that category. And I just wanted to get your, I know the last interview, the artist stream you did for Rootfire, you talked a little bit about like the beginnings of Giant Panda, but you know, I was specifically interested in like what it was like for you when you realized that you guys were starting to gain followers and becoming that band, you know?
Right. Yeah. Thanks. We played a weekly above a really fancy bar in Rochester, and it was the kind of thing where it was like my guitar teacher from when I was a kid. He had a reggae band, and we had recently, you know, I told that story about how we kind of discovered that we wanted to try to make the best music in the world, or like at least be a part of it, being reggae. And we started to be the younger people, the kind of like people that wouldn't normally be in this setting. And it was Thursday night, and it went off every Thursday for 2 years. Anybody that was, you know, just all these people coming together that you just wouldn't really expect. And the energy was really fresh and just like static. And that's when we kind of became in our area like the reggae band to come see, which was a weird thing because we didn't really know that much about reggae, and we still are like dipping our toes in as far as how much there is to know and study about it, you know. We are who we are.
We all.
Right, we are who we are, and we're from Rochester, New York. You know, we grew up with the influence that we had, and like reggae trickled in the way it did to us, and probably a different way than it did for you. But that's a really amazing thing about this music, is that it's a filter that kind of brings a lot of people to the same place that maybe otherwise wouldn't be getting together. So that's what we experienced, and then we started taking it out of Rochester and experiencing the same thing. It was people really wanted original reggae music that wasn't necessarily trying to like cop the Jamaican like accent or anything, but also not sounded like Sublime. You know, wasn't like, it was an authentic thing. We sounded like ourselves, but we were really interested in like having that dance floor feel, where like people were having like a place to like move and dance and let the rhythm run. I really love improvising. Like, I'm really drawn to improvisational music, which reggae has an interesting way of like lending itself to. I don't think maybe traditionally it doesn't, but like we saw it as like, oh, this is a nice place to live. You know, you can be on the One Drop or the Rockersfield and like kind of take it a lot of places. So yeah, that's kind of goes into all of the United States until you get to California. We kind of thought we were onto this sort of new thing, being like bringing back, like having a B3, you know, bringing it on the road, having all tube amplifiers. And we got really into this like aesthetic of it needs to have tubes. It can't be digital. Like, it needs to be analog music. And we felt like we were bringing that around, and was gelling at the time with what a lot of people wanted. So it was really felt like what we were doing at the time was something that people wanted. It wasn't that we were going to be the best at doing it, or that we were the first people to be doing it, but especially in Rochester, where we're from, where there's been a history of reggae since reggae went international in 1970 or in the 70s. We were the only there had been a reggae band like all the time, and we happened to be like the next one that was coming up. Dope. And I don't know if that helps kind of.
Yeah.
You can hear it in your guys' sound too. I mean, you know, as I check out all the different eras of what you guys been doing, right? And and it's cool because, by the way, you were working with my homie Craig Welsh.
I was gonna say,
really good friends with him out of 10
the Ten Deadly Shots. 10 Deadly Shots was being recorded when we were recording there, or like had just been recorded. So that's the first time that I knew about the Agrolites, but that was the first time that I started hearing your name, and then I didn't stop hearing it after that. It came up everywhere. Yeah, you're the keyboard guy.
I go around spray painting my name on walls, so it might have been that too.
But Craig is like one of those elders, you know, like he's not an elder, but like he's older than us as far as we were like teenagers and getting a hold of 10 Foot Ganja Plant, getting a hold of John Brown's Body. And that was my roommate in freshman year of college was playing John Brown's Body. And I was like, who's this? Is this Bob Marley? And he's like, no, man, these guys live down the street. I'm like, this is insane. Like, who are these people? You know? And that's just showing how I can understand when people say like, oh, I don't really like reggae music, but I love you guys. And it's just like, okay, you don't really know a lot about reggae music, and that's telling, you know. A lot of people say that.
Well, I think it's cool because what you're doing there is you're setting yourself up to be the bridge to reggae, because what you guys are doing is influenced by reggae, right? I mean, what we're all doing is influenced by reggae. We're not, you know, we can't go back and be that band from that year, so we can only be influenced by it. It's just different levels of being influenced by it. And so what you guys are doing is great because you are introducing people to the word reggae, to the characteristics of reggae, you know what I mean? And who knows, you know, 2 out of 10 people are going to be digging deeper, and then they're going to be tuning into this, and then before you know it, they're going to go and buy every record by the Uplifters that they can buy. So
and that's like that's something that
right, Devin.
They're gonna try, but
one
they're
of
not gonna
them?
be successful.
Okay.
Yeah, you're bringing them to the dance for sure, just in the same way that we were brought to the dance.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's kind of a touchy thing because I feel like a lot of people feel a certain way about it in one way or another, including me. And like I could talk forever about all this stuff, so I don't want to like take in too many tangents, but
Tangent.
Please tangent.
Well, I'm saying that like it's never with musicians. You know, musicians have a thing going on. Like if you can play and if you're making that vibe, then any musician is gonna be okay with that. You know, they're like, we went down to Jamaica in like 2007 or 2006 on you know, fun trip on a concert. You know, we were playing down there. Like I had a bunch of shows booked through a friend, and That was a really cool experience because everybody was genuinely appreciating the authenticity of the sound, and they were like, you guys clearly respect the old music. It sounds like the stuff my grandfather listens to, not the stuff I listen to.
That's crazy.
But that's like what a lot of the people were saying, and it was cool, but also, you know.
It sounds dope, man. I'm listening to, like I said earlier, I was gonna segue into like me listening to some of these songs. You have so many of these modern bands, and you guys are really, you can just tell. You listen to a band, and you can tell what they listen to. You know, and that's not just being a guy who's listened to reggae forever. That's just being a musician. You know, take reggae out of the equation. You listen to a band, and you be like, oh, okay, cool. They must listen to the meters because they sound pretty funky here. The drummer must listen to the meters, or whatever the case is. So whenever I hear you guys, it's hats off because there's the infusion of original reggae music in there, and you guys make it your own, like I was saying. But
thanks,
definitely, man. That's some real gas.
And it was so cool going on the In Roots We Trust tour with the Expanders and Simkin Project because
it was called In Roots We Trust.
Yeah,
and
you know what, that
was there a dollar bill or
that was the flyer. And you know what, that was one of my questions. It was going to be, what was your favorite tour ever, and why was it the In Roots We Trust tour with the Expanders and Simkin Project?
I mean, the name is obvious to like the bands that were on the bill. Like that was why we picked that name, In Roots We Trust, because it's like these are all very roots-based bands, and what I was going to bring up is how completely different all of our bands are, and how awesome that was, and how cool that is just in the scene in general. Like you can go and see bands at Cali Roots, and a lot of them are playing roots reggae, and a lot of them are totally different, or getting into the St. Croix reggae versus Jamaican reggae versus African reggae. You know, it's like everybody, the thing that people lend to it of themselves is, I think, you know, kind of one of the best parts a lot of the time. So it's like authenticity and stuff. But yeah, that was one of my favorite tours. I don't know if I have a favorite tour. It's all like a bunch of different flavors of pudding in the same bowl, sure. You know?
That for me, that was one of my favorites, just for lots of reasons. But
Pudding's
no, you
great.
mentioned all the pudding. Pudding is really good, and there's not just the dessert puddings. There's like the English style, like, you know, meat puddings. That's like a savory dinner dish.
Man.
Yeah, like
there's
kidney
certain
pie.
things that shouldn't.
No. See, but it's trust me.
We're gonna have a whole segment on that.
On pudding. Yeah, we're doing a pudding episode. Yeah,
meat pies and apple pies and all kinds of.
You know, everybody watching, you know, we want to remind you our guest is James of Giant Panda, and please put your questions in the feed if you got something you want to ask James, and please remember to share this video and go give it a like. That helps the PodClash tremendously. And our boy Juan Love is on, and he's got a question for you,
Juan.
James.
Yeah,
which he wants to know, and I can put it up here. Can you explain the origin of the band name?
I can explain it, Juan. And Juan, it's nice to see you. I love you very much, man. Enjoy your presence.
He says, by the way, Juan says, keep putting that roots out there. Okay,
that's right. Yeah, so the origin of the band name was like the question we always got asked, because it's a crazy band name. And we started to tell it, and then we got bored of getting asked the question, so we started to all have to make up a story.
Beautiful.
When it was asked, and that was really fun for a long time. But I don't feel like you guys deserve that treatment, and certainly Juan doesn't deserve that treatment. The truth should be known. So I'll tell it officially. We were called the Bomb Squad because it was the bomb squad of musicians that we hung out with, like playing the bomb music. And then we started kind of touring around a little bit, and we would get like a write-up in the Albany newspaper, for example, with like a picture of us, but then like not Bomb Squad is a 90s hip-hop group, or like, you know, or we would go to Connecticut and there'd be a picture of another band. There's like 400 bands called the Bomb Squad, it turns out. So we knew that we needed to change our name, and the band has like a fun origin story of like, it kind of started with me, Dylan, and these two brothers, Matt and Chris. And Matt was like my best friend growing up, and I walked into his house one day, and he's reading this book called Another Roadside Attraction by this author named Tom Robbins, who lives in Seattle. And he's like, the name of the band needs to be Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad. And we're all like, we're like, you know, there's like a scale, there's like a spectrum in Panda of like who's comfortable with like taking the most risks and like going down the line. And my man Dylan, who's like the rootsiest guy of all of us and like one of our inspirations, he's a little bit older than us, but I remember he was like, I don't know about that. But what Matt made a good argument, and it kind of like we grew into it of being that Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad was going to take up the full marquee. It was going to be like the biggest name in the newspaper listings. It was going to be the name that people were like, well, I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to go check that out. Just like something to let us stand out because we were getting jumbled in with all these other bands. And we picked it, and it was outlandish to most people. And then we kind of started to understand that, well, we're like music makers. We make music and write songs. We're not, it's very strange that you have to think of a really catchy name to kind of brand your band and make it happen in the music industry. And there's a handful of ridiculously named bands. When we went down to Jamaica, it was super fun because the announcer, like the MC, was always botching the name in like the best ways, Big Panda Dub Band and like all this,
Big Panda Dub Band.
And then I feel like a big thing about our band that I've grown to accept, and this goes into the name, and I love this about our band, is that it takes on a life of its own. So I love the name now because it gives the freedom to listeners to call us kind of whatever they want. Like we're Panda, we're Dub Squad, we're Giant Panda, we're Guerilla Dub. The Guerilla, the GUE part, GUE Guerilla, instead of like the animal. We always say Guerilla like Che. That comes from, in the book, Another Roadside Attraction by Tom Robbins, there was a band called the Giant Panda Gypsy Blues Band that toured up and down the 101 of California with the Indo-Tibetan Circus, and they were this like psychedelic group of tricksters, kind of based on probably the Grateful Dead and the Merry Pranksters, who is a part of like American culture and folklore that we love, and seemed like a fitting name. And we've heard that Band of Gypsies by Hendrix was also taken from that book.
Nice.
Great book, by the way, and the author or the narrator in the book, I feel like I can relate to when I'm like ever doing these podcasts and talking about the band or any interview.
So that's the first. Is that your first official time telling that story?
Nah, probably not.
You've done it before.
Yeah.
Just for shits. Give me one of the fake ones.
All right, so
give me one of your go-tos. So, you have your go-to fake ones.
All right, so we were playing a gig on the Lower East Side in Manhattan, right? And like after the gig, the van wouldn't work, so we had to like load up the drum set like onto the subway. We get on the subway. We're the only people on the subway car, except for this like kind of deranged looking man at the end, and like he comes up, the thing that happens in New York City, comes up, starts talking to us, we're done with the gig, we're really tired, we don't want to talk, but he sits down, he's like, hey, I got this bag of bones, and if you want to play a game with me, like I will give you your path, your mission in life, to if you play the game right. He takes out the bag of bones, and there's all these like different symbols on it, like one of them's a gun, one of them's like a panda bear, one of them is like, the infinity sign, and you roll the things, and it came out Giant Panda Guerilla Dub, and
wow,
it probably wouldn't have gotten by a lot of journalists, but we had it a little more dialed in. Before.
Believable, totally is. You can have so much fun with that for sure.
Yeah, that's a good time.
So so you guys were, like we were talking about, you guys were an established band before the current American scene really exploded. And so like, do you have memories of a time when you were starting to realize like, whoa, like there's some American reggae bands like Revolution, Slightly Stupid, we all know who they are, that are getting seriously huge? Do you remember like a moment where you were like seeing that happen?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like it feels like I'm in a weird movie. Like it was. It's a fun story about Revolution, who's a band that I love very much, and we toured with them so much in like 2008 to 2010, which is really when they were starting. It was like I had never seen a band do that, lift up like that. And we had, our heroes from the East Coast is a band, John Brown's Body, and they are huge to us. And we never thought that a reggae band could go beyond whatever they were doing. And we would hear that they went out to tour with Slightly Stupid way back in the day, and that band was having like really big shows. But as far as I knew, they were kind of a punk band.
Right.
And then, but they were like, no, well, the JBB Horn guys, like De La and like C Money, like they've been sitting in with with Slightly Stupid, and then when they came back from the tour, C Money and De La had joined Slightly Stupid.
Right.
So that was kind of like, I wonder what's going on out there. With Revolution, I remember sitting in a coffee shop in Atlanta, and our manager called us in like 2008. It's like, there's a band that's coming out east. They want to pair with you guys. We're like, we've never heard of them. All right, they look like they're like some young. They're not in all camo with dreadlocks, you know. They're like clean cut looking dudes, sporty guys. And we're like, okay, well, this should be interesting. I guess we'll do it. And this is a fun story. We went to the Paradise in Boston, where it's a place that we had played many times as headliners, and we showed up and there was already a band on stage. And I remember specifically Marley being super excited about some ferns that they had. Can you guys still hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Ferns.
They had gotten some ferns to put on the stage, which is like more production than I'd ever thought about for our live show. And
That's pretty heavy, ferns.
it was awesome,
Most
man.
definitely.
It looked really good. And they had these ferns, and I was like, okay, well, the opening band already got up and set up their stuff and is like sound checking and stuff. I guess that's cool. And then someone called me and they're like, hey, can you get me a ticket to the show? And I was like, yeah, I mean, there's tickets. You can just buy one. They're like, no, man, this show's been sold out for weeks. And I was like, really? That's cool. And
You're
then
like,
I was
whoa,
like,
we're dope.
yeah, I was like, wow, something must have happened. And then every single show on the East Coast, their first time there, I'm pretty sure, was sold out. Wow. And that was really fun and really eye-opening, just as far as like, these guys are playing super roots reggae. And again, with as far as like eras, like Devin, you played the tune from the 80s today.
Yeah.
Like where we were from, whether it was us personally or the people that were around, like we didn't touch listening to music past 1979, which is foolish. Like
I was like that for a long time. I think
so
Roger
many
probably
people
had
are,
his
yeah,
time.
you know.
Sure.
And so Reb was like kind of sounding like this, like Don Carlos, who we were also pretty unfamiliar with, like his later work.
Mm-hmm.
But we were like, wow, this is like pop, essentially music, like mainstream young kids that like would never come see our band are coming out to see this band and really connecting with it, and having like, I think music is so interesting, like how it brings people together that, again, that you might not be with, but like being at any of these shows that I say, like the Cali reggae brings in a more mainstream audience than like Panda fans, again, like our devoted following, are all people that I feel like I've met. Like the people that we're our fans, I feel like we've really like grown those fans and made relationships, which is just such a unique experience, and I'm so grateful for it. It's brought me everywhere I am in my life. But there are people that are like, oh, the thing that I love wasn't happening because I like kind of strange things or like fringe things. And the Revolution scene and Iration too was bringing out like people that I don't know, people that I would see in shopping malls and stores and like out in public, which is like not really what our crowd is all the time.
Right.
You know, if that makes any sense. We have like
Totally
a
does, yeah.
pretty trippy hippie crowd, as we're
Right.
like, we relate to that. We're, you know, coming from jam band scene a little bit. And so yeah, that was really powerful to see like what I would describe as like two frat guys with their arms around each other at a show, like singing, like feeling good, feeling all right. And that, I'm not saying that, I'm saying that it was a powerful thing, like
Right.
to give those kids that moment. And Revolution and all these bands, Iration, are extremely positive bands with really good lyrics. And they're playing reggae. You know, you're feeling that bass line, you know, you're feeling those drums. Then when, yeah, it's so to see that rise happen, and also to see a lot of these bands be so interested in reggae and making that bridge to the Jamaican music, like the fact that Don Carlos goes out with Slightly Stupid regularly is just like warms my heart so much.
Yeah, it's so dope.
It's so awesome, man. And especially to be alive in this time and to be
Right.
alive when this is happening. Like this is these, you know, in 100 years from now, this won't be happening this way. And 100 years ago, this wasn't happening. And to catch this wave, especially with like just talking about the YouTube thing, to catch the wave of being able to have these records at my fingertips and have my kids take for granted that they're just hearing crazy 45s all day.
Yeah.
That's a really cool time to be alive in, man. I mean, with there's another side to that there's a lot of terribleness to all of this. But
I'm really stoked because you mentioned, like, you know, Don Carlos and all these.
Ah.
I applaud when these Cali reggae bands or modern reggae bands include and reach out and get intertwined with original reggae artists, you know. So hats off to like Slightly Stupid for doing that with Don Carlos, and like
It's huge,
you guys, you guys had a Ranking Joe right on a track.
Yeah.
So like that is killer, man.
Yeah, man,
Because
that
then
was
these
killer.
kids, it's what we're doing with this show. You're feeding it to them, and there's
Right.
I guarantee you a handful of kids out there are gonna hear Ranking Joe and be like, "Who is that gentleman? That's heavy."
And who do we owe that to? We owe that to Easy Star, man, because
Yep.
we knew him from the Dub Side of the Moon. Like,
True.
that we didn't
True.
we weren't like listening to. Now I hear Rankin' Joe when the 45s come on. I'm like, I can't believe like
Yeah.
we exist in the same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, heavy, super heavy.
James, you mentioned like how Iration and Revolution are playing like positive music. And that touches on something that I bring this up, some form of this question with a lot of guests, and you're somebody I was really excited to talk about this with because, like the idea of like positivity is a big one in the American reggae scene, right? And of course, positivity was a big part of Jamaican music, right? Rastaman, Vibration, Positive, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Bob Marley had that song, but Bob Marley also had, in Talkin' Blues where he says, I feel like bombing a church now that we know that the preacher's lying, And that side of things, to me, seems to be lacking in this American reggae scene. Understandably, because a lot of the people, myself completely included, who are involved in it, don't come from a situation where that's their environment has necessitated them to write lyrics like revolutionary lyrics like that. But like I was at Cali Roots one year and I was watching Chronix play, and
I remember this.
huge. Yeah, okay, so we've talked about this huge audience, and he's in between songs he was giving he was saying something political or like about social justice issues, and a guy in front of me turned to his friend and was like why can't he was bummed. He was like, why can't he just leave like the politics out of it? Like, why can't we keep things positive? Like, we're just here to have fun. And that was like a moment where I was like, whoa, like that's crazy, because just for me, coming from reggae music, from listening to Jamaican music and where the lyrics were really important to me, and I had been into punk rock first largely because of its anti-establishment stance, and then getting older and being like, well, I'm less interested in anti-establishment just for its own sake. I want to know like what's going on and what people are feeling, and Jamaican music really appealed to me like that. And so I've noticed that that's a prevalent sentiment in the scene, that people, Tribal Seeds, when the lead singer will say something, kind of inflammatory politically on stage, I mean, they straight up like, I'm sure they're like, they benefit from that. Some fans are into it, but they lose fans from that too, and it's crazy for me to see that in the reggae scene. And so I wanted to ask you, like, one, have you encountered that sentiment before? And two, like, how do you feel about it? Do artists and audience members in a scene that claims to be reggae have a responsibility to maintain that connection between reggae music and social justice messaging?
Yeah, I would start it out by just stating that I have no authority to make that decision for anybody else, even though when I talk about it, it might sound like I'm stating that I do have the authority.
Right.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about that, and it's a question that I don't have a really good answer for. I only have experiences, and it's something that makes me know that I'm in the right position and doing the right thing by playing music, which is a big reason that I chose to move my life in the direction of making music full time, is because of freedom, and the freedom to like say what you want, and also a combination of I've been brought so much joy from so much music that was about truth talking, or telling the things that you might not be hearing otherwise, or the history that has gone untold. And not even from listening to reggae music, but the very first music that I was interested in kind of woke me up to that on a level that has continued for the rest of my life. And I feel that it is my responsibility, especially not having those situations of injustice right in your face. Like, I'm a white guy that grew up in the suburbs in upstate New York, and it is easy for me to forget that. Like, that's a privilege. And right now, I'm sure there's people watching that, like, I just dropped the privilege word, and that'll, throw people off. I don't want y'all to lose an audience. But
nah, man, we're gonna talk about dude. We're gonna have to talk about politics,
I know y'all
religion.
Yeah, because you have to, and it's if you don't want to watch, then you can tune out. That's something I feel very strongly about, just in reggae and music in general. But so like I was saying, it's easy for me to forget who I am and where I come from, and I credit reggae and hip hop for being like the guides on that, and Rage Against the Machine, which is of course like coming from that school too. I don't know who I would be without that kind of urge and itch to learn what the real situation is. And I do think that it's not a mental illness, but like it's kind of a crazy thing to want to know about that, especially if your life is not affected in front of your face. Like why do I want to know about how terrible everything is for like a good majority of the world, or even people that have good
because
lives?
you care. It's because
Is
you
it?
care
Yeah,
and,
I think
and
it's,
don't want
I
and you
think it's
don't want
because
it
I
to be
care.
that way.
I
And,
think it's because I care and I don't want it to be that way, but like who am I to talk about it, you know?
yeah, for sure. But I understand that sentiment. But go on, please.
Yeah, so like I can only tell you about the thought process because like a lot of this stuff happens on social media. If it was something that I could just do with the songs, then it seems like it would have effect. But I know that I've had conversations with fans who are 100% the polar opposite of how I think life should be for myself and other people. Like I know that they're out there promoting the opposite, and they love our music and listen to every word. And that seems like it's a pressure valve for people. Like they can be like, oh, like there's a classic Tom, who's it, Tom Ryan? What's that guy's name? I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, but Rage Against the Machine's his favorite band.
Okay.
He's probably going to be the president in like a couple years, but
Crazy. Okay, cool.
yeah. Why am I not thinking of his name? He like ran for vice president. He was like,
Oh, Paul Ryan? No,
Paul.
no.
It's not Paul Ryan.
Michael
Why-
Dukakis. No.
It's
my
so
bad.
funny that I can't think of his name because I 100% know who he is, and so do you guys. But his favorite band is Rage Against the Machine. And he's
I
like,
know what you're talking about too. Yeah, I'm blanking on it also.
yeah, he like is the person that like takes the most money from the Koch brothers and like helped write the tax bill. He's been against everything that helps working people, everything that helps families, or like been doing everything to help major fossil fuel companies. All these people. There's not a lot of people that are in control of making the world terrible right now, but people like him, Paul Ryan, I want to say is his name.
Yeah, Paul Ryan. Yeah. Yeah.
Paul Ryan
Let's
like
go with it.
does a lot to help these
Russ
guys.
Paul.
So when he says that Rage Against the Machine's his favorite band, that seemed like that's a pressure valve. Like he can be like, oh, I can listen to this music and love it and still go and like work for the devil. Essentially, I don't believe in the devil, but like the devil's here on earth basically, and he's working for him. And so it's kind of, when I'm talking to a fan, like I love people, man. I will shoot the shit with anybody. I'm a social person. I like to talk to people. It's kind of like a really good reason to be alive for me. I really like getting perspective from other people and just feeling that energy. So I will talk to anybody about anything. But it feels like I shouldn't be in the position to not have to say something for their happiness, or it's because they don't want to feel uncomfortable. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's a great point.
and they always say, hey, shut up and play music, or why don't you stick to the music? A lot of people are really polite about it. A lot of people will even like direct message me. You guys still got me?
Yeah.
Let me switch something over here.
I mean, those are all great points. I mean, I can hear your frogs.
That's
You guys
dope.
still got me?
Yeah,
Give me
yeah,
my
yeah.
frogs. Give me my
Yeah, you
frogs
don't hear
in-
us, James?
We got frogs in the pool. I got much.
You guys still got me?
Yeah,
yeah,
we still got
yeah,
you, man.
we can hear you.
Okay.
You can't hear us?
I can't hear you, but I will.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. You hear those frogs?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
We good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Oh my goodness.
Uh-oh.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can't hear you,
Oh.
but I don't know why.
Should we kick him out, bring him back
Yeah,
in?
we're going to kick him out and bring him back in.
Bluetooth
Hold on.
headphones ran
Let's
out
do
of
this.
batteries.
Oh, that's
Uh-oh.
why.
Maybe that's it. Go
Hold
get
on,
a new
we'll-
pair of headphones. We got you. Kick him out, Dev.
Hold on, we're gonna remove you and bring you right back in.
Remove ya. Who knows where that's from? 10 points. Write it down. Don't say it, Devin. Where's that from? Remove ya.
Remove ya.
You guys know? Anybody in the chat? First one that answers.
Wins a new Reggae PodClash mug.
Yeah, we're going to have some mugs, and that's no lie. It's going to say mug.
Can you hear us now, James?
Jaman. Them frog back there.
Him of the froggies. Oh, Nick Safakis got it.
Rockers.
Well,
Yeah.
Nick,
Well,
this is
dude,
why Nick
that's
is dope.
awesome.
Yeah.
Because
By the way,
all,
Nick Safakis is in Ayaterra, and he has a great new solo album called Foundation, which is an excellent
sweet
release. Yeah. Oh
Shout
wait,
out
the
to
frogs.
Nick.
The frogs disappeared. All right. Well, James is having some difficulties on his end.
If I knew sign language, we could bust that, but I don't.
Right. Well, James, we can still hear you, but he doesn't know because I can't tell him.
No, you don't know. Yeah, it's all right.
It's okay.
It's a no
Sorry, guys.
dicer.
It's all right.
That's all good.
Got no audio.
No audio. Okay. You want to restart? Well, he can't hear us.
He
huh?
doesn't know what we're saying. That.
Yeah.
We can kick him out for real,
Let's kick
and
him
then
out.
and then
Kick
he can
him
come
out for
back
real.
on.
I
Okay,
think
Reed, if you're watching, text
yeah.
James and tell him to join the stream again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
Finally, I
Here we
get my chance at playing my song. Okay, this next song's called Politics and Religion. 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, what happened? It is just me. Devin kicked himself out, I think. Oh my gosh. It's good. You kicked yourself out?
Yeah,
Is that what happened? You kicked
I
yourself
did.
out?
I kicked myself out.
Bro, I love it.
I'm back.
Okay. Okay, James
Yes.
is back.
Can you hear
See,
us?
what happened is I had to kick myself out.
Are you guys good?
You missed it.
Yeah,
man.
we got you. All
Oh,
right.
you missed it. See, the
I'm
audience.
I'm so
Anybody
sorry
out
about
there
that,
wanted to
guys.
hear
No,
my
it's
song.
totally, dude. This is the beautiful part about this. Like, it's
I was
it's
just gonna do my solo thing, man, and you came back in the room and all this stuff. Gee whiz.
You know,
I'm
I
joking.
guess all I gotta
Pleasure to
say
have
is
you
that
back.
I have so much to say about this topic, and like, of course, my my headphones ran out while talking about it. I'm super long-winded, and I can go forever. But I do think that there's a responsibility of artists to talk about these things, but it has to be real and it has to be authentic. Like, you can't just stick it in for filler, I guess. But or maybe you can. I don't know.
well.
It's so,
I mean,
go ahead, Devin.
well.
I got something to say too.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say that I don't know how many bands. Yeah, there are probably some groups that are think that we're a reggae band, so we should be saying something. So let's say it, and they're just sticking it in. But that's not the real thing that's bothered me. I guess bothered's the wrong word, but just like that notion when you mention like the bands that are positive, like obviously like that's such a big part of reggae music, but when you bring that connotation of like how most of these bands and the people in the bands, how their lives exist in America, and all you want to talk about is positivity, and all your fans want to hear about is positivity, and it's in the context of reggae. It's like, I get that. There is definitely something to be said for like music as an escape from life. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
You need that. Art in general is like mental healing. All of that is true. But when it's in the context of reggae music, that's when I start saying, well, maybe call it something else. Maybe let's like, if that's the way we're going to be, maybe let's not call this, some of these bands in the scene reggae music, and not even coming from a judgment place. I'm not talking about the way their music sounds stylistically or anything like that, but just like that. If we are saying as an audience and a band together, this is not a space to talk about anything inflammatory, anything that's going to harsh our buzz, then maybe it's not. Then maybe that to me is the biggest qualifier for something not being reggae music, I guess.
There's an argument to be made for that, for sure.
Yeah. But what were you going to say, Raj?
No, I mean I'm with you on that. And to piggyback your statement, I'll get to what I was going to say right now. But I think that it definitely should be looked at. I mean, obviously, if it's not going to be called a certain genre, people by default will look at it as like, okay, this is what modern reggae is. This is what American reggae is, or whatever you want to call it. How are you going to pigeonhole it? But you're right; it shares different characteristics, and that being one of them. The major one is that like the songwriting and where it comes from. I used to be so like vexed and bothered by like, okay, when I first, Agrilize is a different, we came from a different whole area. So when the Cali and the American and all these bands started sprouting up, you got to meet a lot of cool dudes and you got to witness a lot of cool bands. But what I noticed too is that you start hearing more and more songs about smoking weed and then these cliche songs and just these like cookie cutter, like, I don't know, because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it's like, okay, now the subject matter has definitely changed. It's almost like some of these bands are like, okay, we're going to start, what do we write about? Well, let's write about weed. Okay, perfect. No diss to the weed smokers out there. I love blazing fat joints too, but my point is
Love singing about it too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
and so after after a while, I sat back and I was like, okay, you should be writing something that you're passionate about. But I sit back and go, well, maybe you're just super passionate about dabbing.
But that's fine. I mean, like I'm not
You know?
against any of the topics that come up. Like reggae, is a beautiful vehicle for everybody in the world to use to express, the things that are happening to them, and that's beautiful. It's when my ears prick up and I start to go is when there seems to be a prevalent sentiment in the audience, these people that are supporting the music, where it's like, oh no, like you should know that you're gonna lose fans if you talk about this. This is, and that's where to me I'm like, it's just crazy. I guess that's why, I guess that's my only point. It's like it's like surprising to me. It's shocking to me.
Yeah,
It is, but it's sorry, Roger. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I totally agree with you, Dev. I totally agree with you. I think that I was that feeling, but super extreme when I first started, just because of where I came from with Jamaican music and how protective we are of it. And people like you, people like us three, we're very protective of it, right? Because it's something that has defined our lives for so many years. It's like, dude, you're going to come in here and use the word reggae, and then you're going to display that, whatever the songwriting is or the subject. And you're right. It's like, it really grinds my gears sometimes. For sure.
me personally, it's just like, I feel an obligation. I don't think that everybody should. Like, I personally do feel an obligation, because I feel like if I'm, again, trying to be a part of reggae, like I'm not trying to take it, I'm trying to be a part of it, because it's something that I believe in. It's something that has positively affected my life. And as far as it goes, just the music, like when I hear the music, I feel like myself. Like that's the thing that makes me feel the most like myself, regardless of like any alienation I felt growing up in the suburbs or anywhere that I was, any of that like American kind of stuff that can get in, or whether it's the time that we're living in can make you feel alienated. The music was something that always made me feel like myself, and it brought me to the people that I wanted to be with and helped me focus on the things that I thought were important. And reggae brought in this extra dimension of like, well, hey, this is like the full history story, or this is where we're coming from in Jamaica, which is analogous to the third world all over the world. And that's the 20th century. So reggae is this really special lens to view the 20th century, the 21st century, just like this crazy time that we're living in, that like when you look back in hundreds of years, if anybody's looking back, like this is a time of serious acceleration. And Haile Selassie talked about that, when he talked about growing up when it took you 30 days to get to one town. And then by the end of his life, he was flying in an airplane in an hour to these places in his lifetime. So
when you write music, James, do you, is the primary, like you're passionate about something and then you sit with your instrument, or do you find yourself more going, okay, I need to write a song, I should write a song, let me sit and then hope the divine content comes? Like, what do you find yourself more so?
I unfortunately, it's the latter. I like, I'll sit and try to write a song, but it feels often very contrived if I do it, or if I'm like, this is a topic I want to write about. I've never had luck with that, I really want to have luck with it. It seems like a really cool thing to be able to do, to wake up at 9 a.m. and have your coffee and just like go to work, which I try to do. And they say you should try to do that to like get the good stuff out. But but I don't end up writing like the songs that I write that are very literal about the things that I want to talk about, I usually end up not really liking. And I should also say that like I'm not alone in my band of feeling this way, but like not everybody feels totally the same way about it. Like everybody feels the same way about the state of things, and like we're all on the same page as far as like how we think things are going, what needs to happen in the world. But the way to share that message, or the way to like really motivate people, we discuss, and I'm the one who's like, well, like my thought process is literally like, we have access to all these people, they listen to our music, we have the microphone. If I see something that reminds me that like segregation was only like 40, 50 years ago, like within a lifetime of somebody that I know, and that shocks my brain, I'm going to like post that. Is that like a new song? No, it's not. But like maybe, does it have to do with reggae? Absolutely. Like for me, 100%, like it does. If you found us through the antenna of reggae music, or if you didn't, then like that's a good place for us all to kind of talk about it. We have lost fans for that, for sure. Like I've had a lot of conversations, good and bad, with all sorts of people. And I don't know if talking about it makes things any better. Like, I don't know if you can change people's minds about stuff. I'm not trying to change people's minds.
Right.
I'm trying to kind of like, I feel like it's a responsibility of somebody with a microphone or somebody with a following to say these things so that someone who might feel nervous about talking about this stuff has more power. Because that's what it did for me. Like hearing Zach De La Rocha talk, or hearing Bob Marley talk, or any of these guys, Burning Spear, like hearing these guys speak. Devin, when you do it more tastefully than anybody, like on the mic, you really do.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you.
And whenever I see you bring that into focus, like on stage, I don't think it's ever a bad vibe. I don't think it's ever out of place or changes the mood. So like, more
That's
people follow your footsteps, man.
Thank you, James. Appreciate that. That's a great point that you just brought up, that maybe like has gone through my head before, but I've never articulated to myself the way you did. That like maybe the point of saying something on stage that might be considered controversial or whatever is like not to change somebody's mind, but to give someone else in the audience confidence that, oh, I'm not the only person thinking this. It's okay to think this kind of thing.
That's the
really
last line. Yeah, that's the last line of my thinking. Like, if I'm gonna, because I mean, this stuff happens online. Let's be real. Like, you're only in front of so many people at a concert, but like on the internet, you say something and people see it. On Facebook and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the last thought that comes if I'm like, I'm uncomfortable about sharing this information. Oh, why am I uncomfortable? Because someone's going to say like, stick to the music, or like, oh, I don't want to listen to your band anymore. Like that to me is like I'm like, well, better post that right away then, because that's something that you shouldn't be concerned about. You became a musician and an artist to like be able to talk about this whenever you wanted. Like that's the license. And again, on the other side, a lot of these folks who push back against that or don't want to hear that or are aggressive about not wanting to hear about it, are all about freedom. So like, it's like,
right. It's just, it seems like we're all on.
But the bad vibe, I hear it, man. It's a bad vibe. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing to do. Like, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, straight up.
Yeah. I guess to like, to bring it back full circle to like, my original question, it's like, just to hear that sentiment from a dude in the audience to say, oh, don't harsh my vibe, while a Jamaican artist is on stage, I think that's what maybe irked me the most. It's just like, bro, this is like where it came from. This is who are you to be upset about this? Like, you're at a reggae show,
That would piss me off, because in that second, so many things run through my mind. Like, there's that initial, what you just said, and then there's the whole privilege based on whoever that person was, I'm assuming, right? And then there's the whole like, okay, ticket sales and what a festival's about, and where reggae is at now in California, and then that artist on stage and what he went through. Like, everything runs through my mind if I were to hear like a comment like that. You know what I mean? Like,
and I should say, even though I mentioned that was at Cali Roots, like in no way am I saying anything against Cali Roots. Cali Roots is like the best festival. It's so great,
But the times that I've been to Cali Roots, they've done a great job.
Oh, it's such a good festival.
And it's so
they
easy
bring
to
everybody.
not do
Like, they bring Jamaican artists. They bring like
amazing,
top
man.
American reggae artists. They bring hip hop artists. Like, Cali Roots kills it. They are really they spend a lot of time thinking about how they can get more women on the bill. Cali Roots is a dope festival. That just happened to be the place that I heard this one person say this thing.
And honestly though, California is like doing, like, the bands that I see are doing a pretty good job with this stuff, as far as like, most people are pretty conscious and pretty irie. And like, what I was saying is like, it's enough that like it's enough that people are going to these shows like in big numbers and having access to that. And again, like, I don't know why I'm bringing up Slipknot. That's not like, I don't know about Slipknot.
I was waiting for you to bring up Slipknot.
I don't know if it's I'm just using them as an example.
That was the word of the day, Slipknot.
But like,
everyone gets a free that. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're listening to Eric Rachmani's lyrics over some like really inviting music. And Eric talks about a bunch of amazing, Eric has great songs.
Eric's a great songwriter.
Eric brings up the issues, and he does it in a very clear way, while also like being like a very comforting person. And it's a comforting band to see for people, especially if it's their favorite group. And maybe because they're bringing in so many people, because Cali Roots is bringing in so many people, if the mainstream was talking about this and gave a shit about anything to like do something about it, we wouldn't have the problems that we have. I think that's like, I feel like I can generally say that statement. Like, it's a minority of folks that are wanting to talk about it. But yeah, so just the fact that people are at the shows, and that guy that might have, said he didn't want to hear Chronix talk about this in 10 years, very well might be checking out every Chronix YouTube video and like, trying to free that land or something. They have time. Like I've the things that I thought that I knew when I was 20 years old, now being 37 years old, I thought that I knew, 37? And I was trying. Yeah, and I was trying to know. 1982. I was trying to know, and I didn't, but I kept on the path. And I'm sure I said a lot of stupid shit, and like,
never,
for sure.
Somebody in the comments is that people are asking questions, and people are asking about the current lineup of the band. I know you guys have undergone changes throughout the years. And the question is about what happened to the other guitarist in Giant Panda.
Yeah,
but maybe you could talk about that, as well as just some of the current lineup you guys have. What's happened to some of the past members that maybe some people were used to seeing.
For sure. Yeah, it's funny because I read like at the bottom ticker there that you have like frontman Jane Searl, which is like a nice honor. But it's like I'm not the frontman. We actually all like kind of share that position in a way, or we want to. We like aspire to that. So like Dylan writes incredible tunes and sings all of them, and anybody else that has been in the band and had a microphone and wanted to write a song, that's what you do. So it's kind of like a coalition in that way. But the band started, as I said, with the Bomb group of musicians, the Bomb Squad, and it was never the intention to have anybody else in that group or out of that group. Mm-hmm. Like, the way we all might start out bands, it's with your best friends. It's with, it's like a hot box, you're like, it's a pressure cooker, So Matt O'Brien is my drummer Chris's brother and one of my best friends. Best friend growing up. Like him and I were like the two guys that were probably like thinking about starting. Like we had the first conversation of like, hey, we both want to play reggae. Let's have a reggae band. Let's change this band into this. Let's try to get these other people in it. So he's a very strong personality. One of my favorite songwriters. Like strong personality in a good way. Like very inspiring person, very influential. And that was the band. Never planned on it being any different. And then that's completely not what happened. It turns out that like we went through phases of like many people. He left the band. Rachel, who was the keyboard player, also left the band in 2009. It was pretty dramatic. It was a tough time in our lives, in everybody's life. As I'm sure you guys can all relate, in being in a band and being on the road, it's just not for everybody. And even if it is for you, it like, wears you out.
It still sucks.
Yeah. It's still, I mean, you're like, yeah, it sucks and it's amazing. Like all at the same time. It's of like, course. We all know the deal and signed up for it. But like in the long run, like in a very Giant Panda fashion, everything has worked out for the better. Maybe that is what happens for everybody. Matt and Rachel started a band called Thunderbody, which went on to perform like, it's like when a band sounds a certain way and then there's a break, like one band takes the sound one way and one band takes it the other way, just like based on their personalities. And Matt and Rachel totally took Thunderbody in the Matt and Rachel direction, which honestly, like I'm like maybe a bigger fan of like, than even what our band does. Not, I love our band and everything that we've done, but you're always the critical one, like, in your own group. And when I saw Thunderbody play, I was like, wow, Matt and Rachel really were able to like dial in their vision. And this is medicine music, which is what they called it. They put out a good amount of records, like in a quick time. And then things were too difficult to like get the band on the road and be hitting it in the regular way that I think you need to like create that momentum, and life goes on. And if you don't catch that lift, like in a certain time in your life, I think it's really hard to keep pushing it. So right now Matt is still writing songs constantly, still performing, still recording under a group, his own group, Matt O'Brien's Flying Object. And so with the new lineup and with like now like a really awesome cast of characters that's come down the line in the past 20 years, it's really more like a squad. Like it feels like we can call on any of those people at any time. And now that we're all grown up and like feelings aside and we've like gotten over our differences, we want it to be more of like an institution where like we can have all of those people be still part of the group and perform at certain shows, and have the catalog be like giant. We haven't really totally gotten there, but we've had a couple opportunities where like Matt comes in and plays and sings, or Dan Keller, who like just left the band last year.
I think that's who the person who asked the question.
That's
I think
wild.
They were
I know.
asking about Dan
They're
Keller,
asking about Dan. That's so funny because like Dan was in the band longer than Matt, but like he was in the band as the new guy for like forever because
Who's
Matt's
cooler?
my best
Who do you
friend.
like more? Who's
Yeah, who
cooler?
do you like more on a personal level?
Who do I like more? I mean,
Total joke.
yeah, I should answer that question, shouldn't I? Everybody that we've ever played with, anybody that's in the band is like one of my favorite people in the world. And honestly, like I would create and play with them in a heartbeat. The Giant Panda has been blessed to have like incredibly creative and very good musicians, pretty much better than like me and Chris and Dylan, who are like the original three that are still in the group. I would leave Dylan out of this part, but I mean, all of these people have always been better than us, like better musicians, great writers. And it's very humbling that they want to come in and work with us like every single time. So that's been a motivation to keep going. It's like, oh, this is a moving thing that like is attracting people that want to play and are great at expressing themselves. And so Dan Keller, who wrote a lot of amazing tunes, who was in the band for 6 or 7 years, maybe.
He wrote Steady, right?
Yeah, him and Dylan wrote that together. Yeah, like
that's what I think of. I think of that too. I think of Dan Keller. Yeah,
he wrote the hook like outside of Rear Window Studios in Mass with Craig. We were like recording an album there, and these guys are out by the trailer, just like playing this tune as tunes come. And yeah, that's an awesome moment that now lives forever. So Dan is chilling in Ithaca. Dan is put out his own record last year, which is incredible. Right. Again, Dan is just one of those people that anything that he picks up, he's like professional at. Like he's like a professional disc golfer and fisher and like BMX bike rider, and like, he's got a motorcycle. Like he gets into these things and like masters them, guitar being one of the first things that he got into, and songwriting. So yeah, he didn't want to be on the road anymore, and it's totally understandable, and we all knew it, and it's all good vibes. So
right.
Yeah.
I mean, the touring part, and we're getting close to the time here. I know it's getting late for you also.
Yeah,
but I got so many other questions, so we're definitely gonna have to have you back.
Yeah,
love it, man.
But yeah, you mentioned like the touring thing, and it's like I imagine like for you, having a family and being a father and stuff, that element where being in a band, and having the family and the kids kind of meet, that can be a hard thing to navigate, I bet. And how has that been for you?
It's been super hard, but also at the end of like Dylan has had kids Dylan's kids are in high school and middle school right now. So he was kind of the first father in the band. And the thing in times where I've wondered if this isn't a good idea to continue, like, are we extending ourselves too much? Like it's hard to be gone from your family, and, it's hard to be gone from them. It's even harder for them to not have you there. I think for most of our families, it's really tough when we leave the house.
Yep.
And to see Dylan's kids so proud of like what he does and genuinely love the band and like, are at the shows when they can be there. That made me really proud even before I had kids. And I think you have to consider that, like, if you're going to leave a legacy and you're this far into it, like you got to do it, and you got to be proud of what you do and make your family proud of what you do. So that's definitely what we're thinking about when we're like even up on the stage. And some nights, rather than other nights, you're like, oh, is this really like the best thing that I could be doing for my family right now? And I think a lot about how so many other people make sacrifices for me to be able to go play bass on the stage, which seems pretty self-serving. Like when you think about it like that, it's like, oh, childcare and all this stuff. And the kids are missing their dad, but just so I can be here on stage. But it's more than that. It's part of who I am. It's part of my identity. And, they appreciate that. So,
and it's also something that the people who like at the top of the show, I was saying how you guys are that band that you mean so much to your fans, you know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, definitely our families make a sacrifice when we go out, but on the flip side, it's like if you stopped playing music, if there was no more Giant Panda, there's so many people that you'd never even know about. Like you would never put a face to this, feeling, but who would just be like, oh, like it would be a gut punch,
Yeah, and we literally do it because people like it. Like I think that's a big deal when you're in a band. Like you can do it for yourself, but it will literally take the other people being like, "Hey, what you're doing really means a lot to me." That's the only thing that's motivated me to have like any faith in myself in like being a musician or being a performer. I'll say it, being a performer, like sharing energy, getting up on stage, sharing songs, singing, being with a group. When I've genuinely felt the reaction that other people have is the only thing that like validates me. I'll never be able to validate myself or like think that what I'm doing is necessarily worth it for anybody besides me. So it's a big deal that people do enjoy it, and that means that's why we do it. So it feels like that's when you take yourself out of the equation, that's when it seems like you're doing a really good thing, and that the legacy that you're leaving, the time that you're spending on earth during this lifetime is connecting with these folks. That's like what our life is. And we don't lose sight of that. It's very valuable to us. So
it's one of the powers of art, art is not only self-expression, but it's that gateway to connection with people.
Right. And,
sure.
and everybody else has a totally different experience with your music than you have with your own music. And I think that is so important to keep in your mind, like just for artists in general, just, it's not just for you. It doesn't really matter if you don't feel it that night. Somebody else, it was their like big night,
Exactly. Well, Roger, are there any? I know I talked a lot. Are there? Any...
man. I love this conversation we've been having with James, man. Covered.
Me too.
Nice
I was so excited for this one.
Guys, we could talk about a lot more. And I like, again, it's like,
okay, real quick. I do have a question. And we don't have to really digress on it. What's your favorite cereal?
My favorite cereal?
Yes.
I don't eat cereal.
Whoa.
But
what's Roger's favorite cereal, James?
Chex Mix.
I like Honey Nut
Is
cereal.
Chex Mix a cereal?
Chex Mix is definitely a cereal. So I like soggy cereal. Like I like.
Oh, wait a minute! Whoa, can't jump back in this game. You said you didn't like cereal.
I'm not cereal. I'm not a cereal eater. Yeah, I'm not a cereal eater, but I had a lot of mornings that were tough because of the cereal in my life. I blame it on the cereal. But how's your backstroke?
Oh, it's improved since we first went to school together.
Back in the
improved.
Day.
Yeah,
that's when I did eat cereal. That's when I did eat cereal. It was Count Chocula.
It's back there, Count Chocula. See, there you go. That's what I want to hear, Count Chocula.
All I want is the General Mills products. Like when I go down the aisle, I'm like, I know how good Chalky with milk is. Like the way that Captain Crunch tastes with the milk, the way that Fruity Pebbles taste with the milk, that certain crunch. Mm-hmm. Like that's a specific taste of 80s, 90s that like people in the 1800s, 1700s, they didn't have these experiences. These are fresh, this is future stuff.
This is good. This is good
conversation. Damn it. We should have talked about this at the top.
Yeah.
Mighty Tasty cereal, Bob Mills or whatever. Mighty Tasty cereal. It's like a rice cornmeal kind of like hot cereal. I enjoy that.
Well, I mean, I'm listening to you both and you make good points, but there's really only one answer to that question when it comes to modern, cereal of the last 30 years, and it's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I think most people would probably agree.
Wow.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is something you could just. We haven't bought it. I don't even know if they still make it. They probably do. I haven't had it in 15 years or so.
Oh, they still make it. Yeah, I'm sure
do they?
Do.
But I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is something like if it's in the house, I can't not eat it. But I won't eat it because I'm not a sweet guy. I'm a savory guy. So like I want for breakfast, lunch, no matter what meal it is, I'm going for like the eggs over the breakfast croissant, and I'm going for like the savory over the sweet cereal. Mm-hmm. But if Cinnamon Toast Crunch wouldn't replace that for me, but I'd have to like overeat. I'd have to like have my eggs, and then when I'm done, I have breakfast dessert, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like I have to eat it when it's around.
I'll hook you up, like maybe hook some sausage cereal or something. I don't know.
Reed Foster says hard no Cheerios original, and I just I can't.
Well, I said Honey Nut Cheerios, Reed. So
if you cook the Cheerios,
we're in the same kind of family.
If you want to make a necklace, go Cheerios. But if you want to eat some good cereal,
shots fired, Reed.
I do have like a life goal to eat pancakes with chickies and talk bass. Like sometime that would be something that I want to do.
Yes, Jesus, big pancake.
That's a whole other show.
I love pancakes. Yeah, that's a whole other show.
So we're gonna have you back on. We'll have the breakfast edition of
Please.
PodClash, and we'll have
And
you
please,
back on.
and thank you guys so much for doing what you're doing. And I'm a fan. I'm a fan. And again, I feel like I'm still dipping my toes in this reggae infancy that could, potentially save the world. But we'll see.
Yes.
At least it'll be
we're all-
there while it burns. So
Exactly. What so just as you leave, like, can you tell people like what they can do right now to support Giant Panda? You guys have new music or anything, any specific place you'd like to point them to support Panda at the moment?
like buy our music, especially our vinyl. We're really
Yes.
proud that we can put out vinyl, and that like in 20 years your kids might be going through the boxes and find Giant Panda vinyl, and pull out the record player, unless everybody's listening exclusively records by then. But we just released our first album from 2006, Slow Down, on
Yes.
vinyl. And that to us is such a big achievement, because when we went and recorded that album, we couldn't even imagine it ever being on vinyl. I believe it's 280 gram, like it's a double vinyl.
Geez.
It's got the original artwork on it that was done with a number 2 pencil by like one of the best MCs, rappers I know, Hassan Maki, also like a killer artist. And we went to Pyramid Studios in Ithaca, New York, because we knew that we didn't know anything about recording and a little bit about playing music, but anything that came out of there sounded really good. And that was the best investment that we ever made. Like going to a studio with a Neve board and someone that really knew how to use it. And our goal was to record really simple songs with really fat tones and like no frills, no dub, no nothing. And it's perfect on vinyl. We got it back to Alex Perialis to master it. So he like remastered it, the original guy that tracked it and mixed it. And he's an epic sound person in general. So yes, you can support us by going to livepanda.com, picking up vinyl.
Livepanda.com.
The other thing that's amazing for artists right now, and I don't know why they didn't always do it, but on Spotify, there's a donate button for bands, which again, why didn't they just do this originally? Like, because people are always worried about how artists are going to get paid from Spotify. Well, now there's a donate button that, like, if you love Giant Panda, you can just be like, hey, I listen to Giant Panda, constantly, here's $20 or whatever. People have been so generous for us. We're not in it for the money. If we were, we would have quit a long time ago. And
I feel like you don't even need to get that disclaimer. It's like people
support isn't just money, I guess is what I should say. Like the support is there, and we feel it, and that's why we're still doing this. That's why I'm on this conversation right now, is just because like people have given us the ability to know that we're here. So thank you guys.
Well, people, please go to livepanda.com, buy Giant Panda music, especially right now where bands can't be playing shows. Anything you can do to support the bands, it really is felt. And like James mentioned, Spotify has the donate button. Please go hit that. James, thank you so much, man. It's so good to see your face for an extended
Roger,
period
nice
of
to
time.
meet you, man.
Dude, James,
Hope to play together sometime.
We gotta chill, hang, and swim, everything. Eat cereal in the pool.
Swim again.
Oh yeah, I mean, nice to meet you again. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, James.
All right,
James. Peace,
Come
bro.
on.
Peace. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Well, that was great, man. I knew having James on was going to be a conversation. That's what I knew, and it didn't disappoint. That was dope.
He's so good at bouncing back, and I mean, geez, the conversation we had about reggae music and its content was just awesome. I enjoyed that.
Man, Giant Panda was one of those groups that, like, when I was way before there was even the American reggae scene, and I wasn't even like paying attention, there was like 2 bands from America that I knew about, and it was 10 Foot Ganja Plant and Giant Panda, and like just that, and it was probably the name, like you mentioned. I probably was like, what? Like, this is a crazy name.
Right.
And then listening to it, I was like, oh, this is the shit. And then that tour we did with them was where I really got to know the guys in the band, and James is great, man. I hope Giant Panda continues for another 50 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So we went pretty long tonight. Let's quickly talk about what we got coming up next week. Who was our guest, Roger?
Dang. This is going to be a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kyle McDonald from Slightly Stupid will be joining us live. So get your questions ready. What makes this super cool is both Expanders and Agrolites have toured with Stupid. And so we're homies with Kyle. This is going to be like, it's just going to be real fun. I don't even know what else to say. I don't even know what we're gonna talk about. We're just gonna chit chat and
It's
let you guys ask some questions.
Yeah, please bring your questions for Kyle. But you're right. Kyle is like, Roger and I have both been fortunate enough to get to know Kyle over the years. I feel like Slightly Stupid, largely because of Kyle, and also Silverback have really supported both of our groups, and the music Roger and I have always made. So it's really cool to get to sit down and have an official recorded conversation with Kyle, as opposed to all the tour bus conversations.
Right, exactly.
And then we're getting, so please tune in next week when we got Kyle McDonald. We're getting closer as the days go by to this Long Beach Dub All Stars album coming out.
Debut. It's a big debut.
May 29th, and both Roger and I played. Roger's on all the tunes. I'm on 5 of the tunes. Roger wrote a lot of the music. I wrote one of the songs and some of the music on some of the other tunes. We're stoked for this album to come out. So look for that. You can go pre-order the new Long Beach Dub All Stars album, and you'll get 3 of the tracks right away that have already been released. And what have you personally got coming up, Raj?
Well, on Monday is a big thing. We're kicking off this Know Your Roots every Monday at 12 p.m. I am super stoked and honored to be on the panel with Thievery Corporation's Jeff Franca. It's going to be a class, an 8-week class where we really dissect Jamaican music from its birth all the way. And so I'm not going to do all of them. I think I'm going to do 4 or 5. Kind of pick the ones that I thought I'd be most relevant and can contribute to the most. But we have other cats that are just on the panel. Of course, I can't name the whole list right now, but some very well-known musicians that can really give their insight firsthand to working with original artists, and having been in the music so long. These guys have a lot to offer. And so that class, go to livelessonmasters.com/roots. And the first one is this Monday, and it's going to last 8 weeks. I'm really stoked about it.
Nice.
Devin, I have been loving these Tuesday performances, dude.
Oh,
They've
thanks,
been going
man.
good.
I appreciate that. I have too. It's been, I really feel like if I don't have an outlet to perform, I start going a little crazy.
Right.
And so just this podcast and the Tuesday night songbook sessions I've been doing through Rootfire TV have just been such a mental health relief for me. And thank you for everyone who's been tuning in. But every Tuesday at rootfire.net/TV, you can catch me. I'm sitting in this room playing. Wait, I can't do this. There we go. This guitar. And just singing old Jamaican songs. I take requests, expanders requests. I've got, Roger is engineering and co-producing my new acoustic solo album, and so I've been playing some of the songs right there in that room Roger's sitting in. That's where we recorded it. So I'm playing some of those songs too, and it's just a place to, if you want to hear me sing some songs and play guitar, that's where to come on Tuesday nights. Also, I'm really excited to announce that I've teamed up with BackstageMusicLessons.com, which is an awesome program business run by Kevin, the drummer of Stick Figure, and he's been doing it for a few years, where people can look on the website and see when bands are coming to town, and if members of that band are part of the Backstage Music Lessons roster teacher crew, you can get a music lesson from them backstage. Obviously, there's no backstage nowadays because there's no shows happening, so they've moved it all online, and they're having a lot of success with it. So you can go to BackstageMusicLessons.com and pick from a whole group of artists that I'm now super stoked to say I'm one of, and we can do a lesson. We can do it through Skype or FaceTime or however you want to do it, but we can work on guitar, specifically reggae rhythm guitar, which is a thing I've studied for years and years. We can work on songwriting, we can work on vocals, whatever you want to do. So go check out BackstageMusicLessons.com. I'm really stoked on that. It's just a way to, another way, like all these streams, to get to connect with people. So I'm really, really excited about that.
That's super big, dude. I mean, think about all the people that they don't think they have an opportunity to have a direct line to the artist. And so it's really, really cool that that's going on, man.
That's I'm working on an article right now because I also work as the editor for Rootfire's editorial section, their website, and I'm working on an article with Kevin on backstage music lessons in general, just talking about what it is. And that's something he kept, in our interview, he kept coming back to that, which is that, yes, it's a cool way for like someone to get a music lesson with an artist that they like, but even more than that, it's a cool structured way to just get to hang with some musicians, and then for the musician to get to hang with the fans,
Right.
in a way that's not like an awkward VIP meet and greet where you're with a bunch of people in a line taking a picture. It's like, he said the vibe has been really nice, and so I'm excited. Hopefully someone will want to take a lesson, and we can just talk about reggae, and I can help them with any reggae musical questions they might have, and we can just hang.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
So, for next week, like we said, we got Kyle McDonald from Slightly Stupid on, and you can go check out what the tune of the week is going to be from each of us next week, so you can really get familiar with it, so that when we're talking about it, you can really have a little bit more familiarity with the tune. And the website is the reggaepodclash.com. Go there and check it out. And you
I'm trying to point to the
Oh, I
website.
see.
can't do it.
Hold on. There we go.
You do that, because then I could do this. For
Right.
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Go ahead.
there we go. And then
That's
Roger, you point to our email address where you can email us just any questions you might have, things you want us to talk about, guests you want us to have.
Yes.
If you want to tell me, my microphone needs to be a different microphone, my hat needs to be a different hat, like shoot everything to that email address, and just let us know. Let us know how you're doing,
people.
what you're thinking.
We're still in the early stages, so we definitely want your insight and your who do you want to see on this show? There's so many reggae artists out there that sometimes we don't think of covering everyone. And is that a mask tape to your guitar? Is that a mask tape to your guitar, Devin?
That is like,
It looks like an old mask. It better
when
not be.
anybody who's watched my Tuesday thing know that like when I play Skanks, I like bang on the guitar to
Oh,
like
that's what that is, yeah.
simulate the one drop effect. I just do this subconsciously, and so I put that on there. It's because when you're banging on the wood, it's like it really comes through. Like I went back and listened to one of the ones I did, and it was just like bam, like bam. The tap was too loud, so that muffles it a bit.
So you grab a mask to muffle it. I understand. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
So that's my mask. Yes, the answer is yes. That's a mask mask story short is that
You're giving your secrets away, dude. See that? Come to the class and learn the secrets. Put a
That's
mask
true.
to the
That's
guitar.
true. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell your friends. Next week we got Kyle McDonald from Slightly Stupid, and we've got
Yes.
some great guests in the works after that. And we hope everybody stays safe, stays sane, look out for each other, and keep listening to reggae music. Go check the reggaepodclash.com, and you'll hear the reggae music that we want you to listen to for next week. All right, Raj. I'll talk to you soon, bro.
All right, Dev. We'll
Thanks,
see you guys.
James. Thanks, James. All right, man. And we're